Hello, welcome. I am Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and this is another episode of Late Night Comics with Bronze Age Nerd. Let's see if we got anybody hopping into the show here. Give it a few minutes for everybody to get in, if anybody's going to join tonight. Looks like we got a couple watchers. So I think this is going to be kind of a fun show tonight. We're going to have some news we're going to talk about. I wanted to try out some different things. Some of those things will work, some of them won't. You'll get to experience that along with me in real time. I also have some unboxings. I have an AOK, which is really awesome. Can't wait to get to that. No idea what's inside of it. And I also have just some orders I made, and we'll check those out as well. So hopefully some people want to hop in and participate. If not, maybe you're watching this on the rewind, which is totally awesome. I do appreciate that. And hopefully it'll be enjoyable for you to watch. And if you are in here, feel free to chat. This is a real low pressure kind of stream. You guys can always join in. These late night streams are pretty laid back and anything goes. So feel free to bring up any topics and chat along if you guys like. So looks like this might be a quiet stream, which is totally fine. This is kind of an experiment. The last one went pretty well. And this one, hopefully will be about the same. I'm going to follow along my phone just to make sure everything's looking okay. So you might hear another stream for a second. But if you do pop in and you're in the chat, feel free to let me know how your night's going. Okay, cool. We got a few viewers in here. Interesting. So there we go. I popped out my chat, and for whatever reason, it didn't go to live chat. It went to top chat. So we do have some people chat around here. We got Billy from Economics and Comics in the house. Welcome, Billy, and thanks for popping in. So let's get started with some news. We were going to talk about some of the stuff that's happening in the world of comics and geekdom today. Let me pull up my list here. So the first thing, real sad news, we have to give a special mention, an honorable mention to Ed Asner, who passed away. Rest in peace, sir. You have a brilliant and amazing career behind you that you left us with. Just, one of those sad things that obviously happens is some of our heroes or our favorite character actors or whoever get a little bit up there. He was 91. He passed away, but definitely somebody who's going to be special to a lot of people in nerddom, as we have, him doing the voice of J. Jonah Jameson, for example. He was in Gargoyles, obviously Up, a classic role that he'll be remembered for a long time. So yeah, definitely a sad occurrence. Talk about manipulation. Manipulating your heartstrings. Is that what we're talking about? Or are you just asking me to talk about it? But yeah, definitely not, a pleasant story to start off with. But I think that, as anybody who's in their 90s passes away, obviously it's still not a good thing, but, definitely time to reflect upon the successes of their life and celebrate their life. So hopefully we can all do that for Ed Asner, and rest in peace, sir. Next up on the agenda. So another thing that happened, this is something that happened today. Interesting news. I'm not necessarily, it's not going to be ground shattering news for anybody. Bridget Regan, which I remember from Legend of the Seeker. She was on that show, that short-lived kind of 2-season show a few years ago, but she was a very attractive woman on that show. So I remember her. She's been cast as Poison Ivy for Batwoman season 3. I don't even watch Batwoman. I don't think a lot of people do. It's, kind of one of those CW shows. But, some people certainly check it out. I don't think this is going to do much for speculation on Poison Ivy books. I mean, I don't think that's going to move the radar much, but it is keeping the character relevant. I think she might make a really good Poison Ivy, so that's pretty cool. Happy to see that. But that, that's definitely something that should be on radars. The last thing, I'm going to lose the chat here. Let me see how many people we have. We got 5 viewers in here. So hey, everybody that joined in, a few more of you joined in. Oh, now we're up to 7. Just to kind of give you a real quick recap, because I don't think anybody heard it because it was right when we first started. I would going over some news that happened this week, kind of starting out the variety show with the nerd news segment, and then we're going to move into some unboxings. I got an AOK that I'm really excited to unbox. I have no idea what's in it. One of my fans sent that over and just wanted to send over some comic books, so we're going to check that out, and also just some cool stuff, some stuff you guys are going to want to see, I think. So definitely let's check that out. Okay, but let's switch over and hey George, how's it going? Thanks for joining into the show, George. I really appreciate that. Kind of, yeah, just kind of one of these laid back late night streams I do where we talk about news and unbox some comics, and it's an open forum, so feel free to talk. That said, I will not see the chat for a second as I'm talking about stuff, so keep that in mind. But yeah, kind of an interesting story. I just thought it was, not, again, this is just comic book related fandom kind of stuff, right? Oh, dang it. There was no sound. Do we have sound now? I'll wait for somebody to respond. There's going to be a bit of a lag there. Damn it. That really sucks. You guys missed my cool. So I'm seeing everybody saying there was no sound. I'm guessing there was no sound when I switched over to the article. Is that what happened? Unfortunately, that's when I lost the chat. So, okay, we're back. I am so sorry, everybody. So this is a new setup. When I switched over to look at my desktop, I didn't have my microphone set up in OBS there. So you guys missed my cool read of that. What I'll do, so because I don't want to mess around with it live on stream, you guys already lost part of that, obviously. Is I will pull it up on my phone and just kind of go over the Cliff's Notes version, basically. So I apologize for that, everybody. We'll get this down as we go along, right? All right, so here we go. So you guys all saw the article for longer, and you probably all read it yourselves, but the basic premise here is that Roy Thomas, this is like I said, this is an article. You didn't hear me, but this is an article from Bleeding Cool. I don't really care about Bleeding Cool. I'm not a big fan of their editorial stances and stuff. However, they're the ones that brought this up because they were talking about all of the Todd McFarlane characters kind of getting brought back into the limelight. Characters that he'd worked on or co-created because other companies are trying to capitalize on the recent kind of renaissance of Todd McFarlane with everything going on in the comic collecting market. However, Roy Thomas had seen that article and kind of clapped back a little bit, and points for them, they covered it. He straight up says, I not only conceived Mr. Bones on my own, though conferring with Dawn. I'm pretty sure that's his wife's name. It's Dann. He was my idea, where other Infinity Inc. Helix characters were sometimes initiated by her or by both of us together, but I drew the first picture of him, costume, skull, and bones design, etc. He was influenced by the old Black Terror character, and visually based on Blazing Skull and Ghost Rider at Marvel. This is a long quote, so I'm going to kind of go on and on in here. Basically, he didn't even draw, Tom McFarlane didn't even draw the original sketch. That was Mike McClan, and then Todd was the third person to draw Mr. Bones, which is kind of interesting. So Mr. Bones, if you're not where this is all coming from, he's coming back after, basically escaping into irrelevance for a very long time in Infinite Frontier 5, after making his debut as a sketch in Infinity Inc. 15 back in the day. So the thing that I thought was kind of interesting is how Roy Thomas basically equates Todd McFarlane to Herb Trimpe when it comes to the creation of Wolverine. He says Todd was the third person to draw Mr. Bones' basic look. By standards used for, say, Wolverine, Todd would no more be the co-creator of Mr. Bones than Herb Trimpe is currently considered of Wolverine. Although, again, as I said, I'm willing to count all three of us as the co-creators of the visual aspect of Bones, though only I conceived the original character, named him, wrote him with Don's help, which is, I don't know, kind of interesting. So yeah, sorry, probably lost a little bit in the second take there because you guys didn't hear me the first time around, but it's just kind of an interesting story. There's been a lot more talk recently with what creators are dealing with the rights to their characters and for the stories behind their creation. Especially, this is a DC example, but especially when you're talking about the Marvel way, there's a lot of collaboration that happened, right? That's a big part of the story there. But then especially with Marvel, creators often aren't given proper royalties or credits for their characters as they move on. And I just think it's a fascinating subject, and one that we'll kind of have to dive into more as collecting matures. I mean, you think about it, comic book collecting has been around for decades, but I think we're just finally now getting to a point where, maybe it's the success of the MCU, maybe it's the dollar amounts of some of the comic books instead of just, the Superman, Batman stuff from the early days like we all grew up with. Those are always worth money, but now there's just so much more money involved. The average age of the readers, they've aged up. All these things we're dealing with, it's comics are a serious business now, and creators getting jilted is something that exists in a lot of different mediums, movies, television, et cetera, books. And now we're kind of dealing with that with comic books. And I think that's fascinating. I mean, I think that as a fan, I want to see the creators get everything they're due, including royalties and including rights and including credit for what they created. And then, I'm not saying anything malicious happened here. It just sounds like, from my personal take on it, sounds like Bleeding Cool made a simple mistake, and they kind of posted Roy Thomas's explanation, and I think it was just cool to read his explanation of it. I didn't know anything about that character's creation, so I feel like it's kind of cool to hear it from the horse's mouth. I would be somewhat interested to see if Todd McFarlane had a different opinion on what happened, but anyways, I just thought it was cool. So no one's really talking about that, so I'm just going to assume no one's super interested in that story, but Again, I thought it was neat. So those are all the news stories that I kind of thought were fascinating, with one exception, which is some news that broke today about the Rocketeer. And again, talk about, pulling at my childhood's heartstrings. Rocketeer was a fantastic movie. Well, it was a fantastic imagination set piece. That's what I'll call it. I don't know that I've really gone back and rewatched Rocketeer and gotten, lifted like I do when I like rewatch Star Wars or something like that. But it's still a fantastic concept, and I think the sort of retro nature of it, when I watched Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, for example, it's another great movie. I couldn't help but think of the Rocketeer most of the time I was watching it. Just that sort of gothic look that it has and everything, and just the concept of flying around like that. It's pretty cool. So there's talk that Disney Plus is basically bringing Rocketeer back. There's some interesting, attachments to it. Yeah, SG. I thought it was a great movie. I just think it, probably hasn't aged well, but then again, a lot of movies from that time haven't aged well. Some really have. Of course, there's exceptions, but Jurassic Park has been fantastic for a very long time. But a lot of movies from that time definitely didn't hold up. But I know there's a lot of nostalgia for the Rocketeer, so I thought it was worth talking about. It's still extremely early here. I mean, we're not really given many details, but still, I think it's definitely interesting. I would switch back over to the article I had pulled up from that, but I don't want to lose sound and stuff again. So unless anybody has anything to say about it in chat, I won't go over it. And again, there's not much in the way of details anyway, but still pretty fascinating. All right, so you guys are quiet, which is totally fine. No pressure, but I just keep kind of checking over just to make sure nobody's talking. But I do want to unbox this A-OK. So this came a couple days ago, and I told the person that sent it, Brennan, who, if you watched part of my live auction on Friday, which went really well, by the way. I want to thank everybody that showed up and watched that and participated. I got all the stuff sent out today, with one exception, because somebody wanted their stuff to go out late because they were on vacation. But Brennan was in the auction and won some items. And then, it's funny because I had some of his stuff sitting here. So let's open it up and see what he sent. I really appreciate Brennan doing this. This is the second A-OK I've ever gotten. And it's just humbling that somebody's going to want to send you some stuff. And I think that's really cool. So you can all hear all the opening sounds. All right, we got a box in a box. So it seems like a lot of people that I talk to are kind of off to a bad start in their week. You guys experiencing that too? You guys, was it a rough weekend? There's a lot going on in the world, of course, but let me know how you're doing. Hopefully everybody's doing all right. If you did have a bad start to your week, hopefully it starts going better. Wow, there's a lot of stuff in here. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm gonna get everything out of here. So this is it's just in a top loader. This is really cool. This is the Flair, Fleer Ultra 94. That's one of the, oh god, what do they call these? It's like a promo card sheet, basically. And I actually have, I think I have this complete set myself. So this is really cool. I've got a couple 3-ring binders with like the clear, they're black binders with like the clear sleeve on the outside. So I might put this in a poly sheet or something like that, and then put that in there to protect it. But that'd make a cool cover there. Thanks a lot for sending that over. That's really awesome. Open up these bags. But yeah, just kind of been. Okay, so I'm gonna highlight some chat here I see coming through. Fallen Hero says, I made it horrible evening. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Fallen Hero. I do hope that the rest of your night gets better. You're here now. I would say that hopefully that helps a little bit. And you made it here, so there's always that, but I'm really sorry to hear that. Jamie says, yeah, I did a lot of work yesterday to get ahead for today, but still need to do more today. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I don't know what it is, but you know, sometimes you get around those periods of time where it's like, you know, full moon, or everybody starts to act a little weird, right? Like, yeah, it's things like that where sometimes it just feels like everything's going bad for everybody. And, you know, like I know some people close to me were not doing too great. I always am nervous to break out a knife on these little envelopes because you never know what the contents look like inside. You don't want to rip into a comic or any other goodies that might be in there, but we'll get in there. All right, so we got some comics here. You guys like comic books, right? Oh, wow. Cool. So we got X-Men and the Micronauts number 4. That's really cool. Got a Thanos print. 2,102 of 2,300. So a numbered Thanos print. That is awesome art. I don't see... Okay, I do see a signature. I don't recognize the art off the top of my head or the signature. You can kind of see it there, right there. Maybe one of you gurus of art in the chat recognize that. It's definitely cool. That's really awesome. I got X-Men Civil War number 2. Right on. And we got the variant for Civil War number 3, the Hulk sketch variant there. Is that a wraparound? I would wager it is. Yeah. Try to show that off a little bit. That's really cool. That's awesome. Oh, wow. New X-Men 132. That is an issue I don't have. That's cool. I got rid of a lot of this run a few years ago, and like, I don't really regret a ton of stuff that I got rid of when I sold most of my collection, but this run is definitely one of them. This is 119. That's cool. Oh, geez. 135. And 136. Cool. This is a huge chunk of this run. Dang, and it keeps going. 138. So I wonder, boy, yeah. Brandon, if you're watching this on the rewind, I wonder, did I say something about that on my show at one point or something? Did you know that? 131. Because I'm pretty sure I picked up one book. Oh, yeah, awesome. Is that way at 116? Love that cover. Cool. Make sure that's not somebody being like, hey, I can't hear your stuff. Oh gosh, wow. The variant for can't remember which volume of Uncanny X-Men this is that Regenesis started, but that is cool. As a huge Cyclops fan, that's definitely awesome. Love that cover. Wow. The King in Black #1 variant. So cool. I don't even know. Gosh, with Ahab on the cover there. It's an Unknown Comics exclusive, Extermination #2. Ahab and his little weird pets that he kept. Man, that was a weird run. That's awesome. Oh, damn. Got a second printing of ASM 55. So Brennan did mention that I could do some giveaways on some of the stuff, so I probably will do that. And I might know somebody who's looking for that for a really special reason too. So I might have to hit them up too. X-Men 120. God, this is badass. Wow. Got an ASM 3 variant. I'm guessing these are all the unknown. Oh yeah, I've heard about that Spider-Man booth.com. I've heard of this seller because I've seen those stickers before. There's a local vendor here that I've bought from, and he had some of these books. I think mystery boxes, I think, is where some people get them. So that's ASM 46 variant. That's a kick-ass cover right there. Yeah, that is really awesome. And there's even one more thing. So the ninja kind, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Am I saying I like that too much? Oh, sweet. Here's something that will take you right back to the 90s in 1 second. The Fatal Attractions hologram. Havoc on there from X Factor 92 in a 9.0 white pages. That's so awesome, Brendan. Thanks a lot. Some of the stuff I definitely will enjoy for my personal collection, and some of it I will find a cool new home with some of you guys, I bet. Kind of figure out what's worth keeping and what I think somebody else might get more enjoyment out of. But there's some really neat stuff in there, and that's just a really awesome A-OK. So thank you so much for that, man. So this stuff is actual orders that I made. And oh, Billy, if you're still in here, I got one that'll be from you, sir. But I got to start off with this one because I've been dying to see this. Because they took forever to ship it. And these books are really freaking hot right now. Still waiting on TMNT Last Run in issue 4. Is that still delayed? Or is that just... Wow. Yeah, I guess it isn't out yet, is it? Either that or it shipped and hasn't arrived yet. I don't think I got issue 4. I was getting tired of... In fact, I'm super tired of all the magazine size books. And I know it's not really a magazine size book, which is actually kind of worse. If it was magazine size, at least it would be standard. But you know, I think I picked up 1 and 2, for example. And I got several of number 1. Like I got the 1 in 10 Eastman variant, for example. Okay. So do you guys like those? Oh, I mean, this, sorry, those. What am I talking about? So that's the J. Scott Campbell Rogue variant. Limited to 2,500 copies. These blew up. Definitely curious about the quality of these. So there were 2 of them in there. And yeah, these are something I saw. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, I'm at least getting 1. And I was like, you know, I bet you these are going to do okay. After seeing, you know, like the Wolverine, John Tyler Christopher variant blow up. Yeah, thought I should get a couple of those. So might see what condition they're in. I want to keep one and probably sell one. So all right. Let's not keep Billy waiting if he's in here too long. He's probably got other stuff he has to do or go work or something. So let's open his package. Billy, I'm about to open your package with a knife. Yeah, and by the way, Stan over at Stanible's Universe was making fun of me for using a Spyderco, so I brought out my mini Griptilian Benchmade here. So I guess we're gonna have a knife war. And I get to say, officially, you call that a knife? Yeah. Bad Australian accent and all. All right, so I think these are really awesome too. These are not to be discounted at all. These are the Carla Cohen Batman 89 covers. And this was an exclusive, right? Yeah, MegaCon exclusive. Limited to 3,000 of the trade dress and 999 of the minimal. So, of course, I got the minimal as well. That's just awesome. Yeah, I really like that. You know, Carla Cohen does some amazing work. I like Catwoman, and you know, it's maybe not an exact likeness to Michelle Pfeiffer, of course, but you know, I mean, it gets close enough for me to definitely be cool, and I just love the bite and the whip. So, in one of your packages, that's the least of my concerns, Billy. Just kidding. Billy packs really well and does a great job. So no worries there about any of that kind of stuff. And he also has a refined eye for quality and rejects stuff that's broken, damaged, and make sure that he gets replacements. Probably to his detriment, to be honest, but he does it, and he does it because I think I can speak for him pretty freely. He does it because that's what you do as a comic collector, right? Like you want good quality stuff. He knows that. That matters. Keeps me coming back. So this package is from our great white northern neighbors and took forever to get here. And I will say they got it to me. So keep that in mind. But what I will say about this is I basically had to wait, email them and be like, yo, this came out. Was there some kind of delay or what's going on? And they said something along the lines of like, oh, we'll you know, that those are arriving soon and we'll get them out tomorrow. You know, when you wait like 6 weeks and then randomly you hear that you're going to get something out tomorrow. Yeah, maybe that's what happened. But frankly, like whether it's true or not, my belief is going to be that you forgot about it, lost it, or waited for somebody to complain before doing anything about it. You looked into it and you realized you messed up. Maybe that's not what happened. I'm not saying that's what happened, but it's what it feels like. And it happens a lot. I get it. You know, comic stores are extremely busy. A lot of people are doing orders. Logistics and packing are hard. But anyways, that's just one experience I had. This is the first time I've ever ordered from this particular vendor. So, yeah, maybe it's just a fluke. Ugh. All these types of packages like this should have like the little rip stop. Yeah, 100%. Things definitely do slip through the cracks. Like I'm not, you know, I'm not blasting the company that did this, but it does feel that way, right? Like that's how I feel. God damn. Again, I hate having to like get to this. So if you ship and I get to this point in the package where I've gotten through all the cardboard or whatever, all the like obvious packing material, I shouldn't have to like consider breaking out the knife. If I don't have to break out the knife, you've done your job. If I do, and this is not just this company, a lot of companies have this problem. But you know, if I'm trying to have ripped through this envelope, I could do more damage than cutting through it at this point. So that's a decision that I have to make. Plus, yeah, it's pulling at the corners of the comic. You got to be really careful. So sorry if this is boring, but you know, I don't want to damage my comics here. All right. So I am okay. All right, cool. So first off, it might be ridiculous packing, but yeah, I scissors. I I see what you're saying. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but like, I have control of the knife too. There's a thing on here, and it'll say who it is, which I didn't really plan on saying who this was, but they sent this too. So it's Mutant Beaver guys, and they did throw in an extra book there. Thank you for my business, and it's a pretty kick-ass book too. It's Batman 50. I don't know, it must be their exclusive, I'm guessing. I don't remember seeing that one, but that's really awesome. So that's cool. I appreciate that. And everything looks like it arrived in good shape. At the end of the day, you know, that's fine. If things arrive damaged, I'd be pissed, obviously, but that didn't happen. So, and then I would just contact them, and we'd see what's going on. Thanks, Dank, and thanks for popping in, man. But I think these are some cool covers. I want to show these off. So I love Warren Liu, and I think this is one of his better covers. That's Wonder Woman, black and gold, #1. So I got the trade, and I got the minimal variant there. And that's just, I love the way the gold popped on this, and the expression is really good. Now, he recently did a Vampirella cover that I'm getting a virgin variant of, and a bunch of the regular cover in one of my next shipments that I think is better. That's why I don't say, that, you know, this is best cover, but it's really far up there. And I actually have Power Girl 27 too, which is his first cover he ever did. It's also a stunning cover. Immortal. Yeah, I've definitely seen it. I talked about it a little bit. I can talk about it here. I thought about doing a video on it, but it's gonna kind of roll in to a video I'm gonna do probably later this week. When it comes to the topic of that video is going to be, should you submit to CGC or CBCS in 2021 and early 2022? And, you know, we can all have our opinions on that. We can talk about it. The video, I'm going to kind of try to cover multiple angles like I usually do. See, cover multiple angles. That's what she said. But here, you know, I'll give you the Cliff's Notes version because people are definitely interested about that topic, and they should be. It's unfortunate. It's too bad. But here's the deal. Here's what I'll say about this. And this is what I thought about the instant I heard about it before I even watched the video. And I did eventually go watch the video, and it kind of holds true after seeing what I saw in the video. I can't be sure that there wasn't some shenanigans on that person's part. I think that if there were, and I think that would involve something like switching out, or having multiple copies, maybe a really signed one, and then one that he tried to imitate, and then matching them up. I think that's possible. I'm not saying he did that. I'm just saying it's possible. I think probably he did do it. I mean, he obviously did it, but I think he probably did submit the book that he forged. And yeah, I'll call it forged. I mean, you faked, forged, whatever you want to call it, but he did forge a signature. So the thing that I think is interesting about that, the couple elements that I think really stick out to me is short term, you know, what are the implications of that? They obviously have some stuff that basically says they could take legal action, which is probably true anyway, for him doing that. But also, what are the implications for what that means for the CBCS signature verification service? Of course, that is the other elephant in the room. And my opinion on it is, it's hard to say, because that could be the only time that's ever happened. Probably not. It could happen 0.01% of the time. It could happen 50% of the time. We don't really know. And I think that when it comes to CGC and CBCS, this is where I kind of default to. There should be some more transparency with both grading services that are on the top of the hill, in how they relay information to us and how they approach it. I had an internal struggle because I have an Ultimate Fallout 4 that's triple signed, and one of those signatures is Sarah Pacelli, who's the signature that he faked in that video, allegedly. And I have wanted to submit that. And I asked some people in various circles, and I kind of already have my own opinion made up, and I think I'm still going to submit it. I think I still have faith in that service. It's obviously signed. I didn't witness the signature. More importantly, CGC did not witness the signature. So my only option for getting it graded and having it have any value is to send it to CBCS. But I did kind of wait and see how some of this played out and see if like their market tanked. It's not good for them. It's not good for CBCS. It's not a good look. And I think what spoke more volumes about anything, more than anything that happened here, is their silence. If they could have said, hey, we sent the same book back to that town or that address or whatever a week before this happened, or we multiple books were, if they could somehow point to some evidence that was not something that they verified and approved, I would think by now they would have, unless their lawyers told them not to, which is possible, of course. It's a complicated situation. So I think, but then on the other hand, they haven't really said much, or if they have said much, it hasn't trickled down to me. I haven't seen it. So I still will use them and trust them, but I wasn't using them very much anyway for this stuff. I still like CBCS. I think it's a good service. I think people artificially downgrade CBCS, and they shouldn't. That's kind of my basic thoughts on it. I'm going to kind of read through some chat because I'm sure people have said some stuff since then. Yeah, scissors are for kindergartners, though. Just kidding, man. Thanks for coming in, Sky. Yes, I did watch the video. Well, I'm sorry. I watched a different video, actually, because I don't watch a lot of videos about the comic community in general. But it's funny because there is a channel that I watch. There's a couple channels that I watch a lot, and one of them is ETA Nick. I think he's a great channel on YouTube, and I watched his reaction to it, and his reaction is kind of what I expected from him after hearing the story. But I totally agree. It's like, manipulation has happened in this market and every market for a very long time. The question is, does it matter, and how does it matter? Of course it matters, and how it matters is dependent upon your level of understanding what's going on. And for most people, they're not willing to dive into it. They're not willing to think for themselves. And if you let somebody tell you that something's really valuable and you believe them and you buy into it, you have made that a self-fulfilling prophecy for that good or that service or whatever it is. Let's say it's X-Force #1 with a Deadpool trading card in it, a rookie card. If everybody suddenly decides that's worth money and people pay like it's worth money, if people value it and put their money behind it, it's going to make the price go up. It could make the price go up because people were manipulated, or the market was manipulated and people followed the market. It could go up because people really do care about that thing and now think that it's worth a lot of money and they want it. If it's the first thing, it tends to be short-lived, which is kind of what happened with that Deadpool rookie card, for example, right? Anyways, I think that it's a fascinating subject. It's something I probably will talk about a little bit more and more in depth. But my opinion is market manipulation happens. If you're aware of it happening, I hate to say it, but sell to your advantage. Like if I think that was a Mario game, right? But if whatever happens, sell while you can. That dude on CGC barrel. Yeah. Yeah, fraud is a crime. I mean, I'm sure that they're gonna look into it. I mean, the there's a couple angles there though. Them blowing up that guy's shit might cause that story to have more traction, and they might not want it to have a lot of attention. They might want to just kind of sweep it under the rug and hope everybody forgets about it. So part of this message will wear off because of the way I do this stuff. So I'm gonna read the whole thing. Economics and comics. Billy says, I believe it was a real fake SIG. That's a nice catch-22, right? And they certified, but the timing is interesting with CGC sucking right now and CBCS growing. It was perfect timing. The CBCS issue will disappear in a year. yeah, I think that's kind of a good point. The timing is interesting. I think it was real too, but I do see how it could be faked. And I don't think that should be discounted. Also, Sarah Pacelli's signature is bonkers. Like I bought that comic book, and the person I bought it from, no disrespect to him because both signatures suck, thought it was Nick Spencer that had signed it. And I was looking, I was like, no, I think that's Sarah Pacelli. I'm pretty sure I'm not mixing that up. And her signature is, it's like a freaking circle, man. It's not a hard signature. And that's the thing, right? So people, I think we're quick to like jump on actual graders at CBCS for that a little bit. In reality, I could be wrong about this, but my understanding is that a lot of what they do is Beckett's computerized, like AI driven image recognition verification service, and then like a person overviewing that too, probably theoretically, right? So I'm pretty sure that's how that works. I could be wrong about that, but if that's the case, so the software can make mistakes, and yeah, the signatures are not. Jim Lee's signature is another one, but his is, I think, a little bit more distinctive. And then you also said the final responsibility is on the buyer bidder. They must learn self-control, be knowledgeable. Yeah, and that's a huge part of what I talk about. I mean, I'm not the only one by any stretch of the imagination, but that's a huge part of what I talk about on my channel. It's a thing that kind of drives a lot of the content I do. So I'm glad you brought that up. Like I would like to share with most of you my way of looking at things to decide what I believe. I'm not trying to convince you of what I believe. I don't care. I want to put out my information on how I find my information, on how I critically think about a topic, and how I analyze it from a couple different sides at least, and just offer that as a way of looking at the world when it comes to the collectibles market. Possibly, but so maybe I could be completely wrong, but what I understand is that theoretically they're using some Beckett imaging technology. Yeah, I mean, all signatures can be fake, and especially when we're talking about signatures in collectibles. I mean, baseball cards. Good. Geez, there's like there was a massive, absolutely massive, and I'm sure Billy knows about this, a massive like counterfeiting ring, basically, where I mean, baseball and in general sports memorabilia from like the late 80s, early 90s, most of the way through the 90s. If it's not really verifiable, you definitely need to be careful, because there was a huge ring where all that stuff got faked, and one guy, made a lot of money off of it and started up other people in his business and stuff. And it's actually a very fascinating story. There's some cool documentaries and stuff about it. Like you can find it on YouTube and watch one night. But yeah, collectible signatures are suspect at best. So as a fan, my recommendation is, and I think, again, my recommendation, my 2 cents on it. If you care as a fan, think about where you're buying it from and realize that even they might be duped or something like that. If you didn't personally witness it, or get it personally witnessed, signed in front of you. Like I have, like a lot, but I have Spawn #1 signed by Todd McFarlane. I sat down, had a conversation with him. He signed it. I know he signed it. I don't care if anybody else knows he signed it. I'm a Spawn fan. I'm not like a mega fan, but I'm a pretty big fan, and I'm never selling that. I'm never getting rid of it unless hard times really come or something, right? It's not like untouchable, but it's pretty close, because I had that little conversation with him and talked to him, and I'd like to pass that on to my daughter someday, just like what Billy's saying there in his next comment. And I think that if you're from approaching it from that perspective, it doesn't really matter. But from another perspective too, I think an interesting element to talk about with this is signatures in general. You got to remember, not every fan wants a signature. I think it's, generally speaking, signatures can raise the value of most collectibles. but remember, if you're buying to invest in and sell later down the line, your sorry about that, your pool of buyers shrinks if you have a signed collectible, because there's a large segment, especially of like old school collectors, we'll call it. I mean, they're not necessarily old, but that don't want a signed comic book, for example. And I mean, think about it, like, most creators would sign on the inside page back in the day because they didn't want to cover up the pretty art on the front of the cover. Yeah, I personally enjoy signed covers, but I understand it. And so if you're collecting for that reason, think about that. If you're collecting because you just want to own it, then obviously whatever matters to you is the most important. Billy says he's a big fan of raw and graded and signed, etc., but I'm so close to just doing raw soon. Yeah, and so that's actually ties into that video I'm going to be doing, where I'm not just going to talk about the CBCS thing. I think it's an element of it. But and I might even record that video tonight. You might see it this week. Where I think that there's a case to be made for not collecting graded materials anymore at this point, especially right now. I mean, a lot of the stuff I do that's graded, just to talk about it for a second, I do it for two reasons. I do it because it's for my personal collection, and if something happened to me, I want my family to be able to sell it and not have to like wonder about the price. Like a 9.8 whatever, GI Joe 1 or whatever is a pretty known quantity. It goes for about an amount. You can easily check it. There's no there's little arguing over what the grade is. It's probably in that ballpark. That kind of the amount of work that somebody has to do to sell that goes way down. So my idea is those comics I have that really matter to me, that are important or valuable, I know I'm not selling, I get those graded so I know that they're easier to sell down the road for my family if something happened to me, or if I pass them on to my daughter. I don't know that she'll be a comic book fan. She is now, but she's 2 years old. I don't know. She could grow up and be like, I hate you, Dad, and I hate how much you liked comic books when I was a kid, or something. You never know, right? But then she could at least sell them and use them to go to college or whatever, right? So that's the important part. Or buy a house or whatever it is, or buy an apartment, who knows? But also to sell. So if I'm grading comics, it's usually about a 2/3 to sell, 1/3 for personal collection kind of ratio when I send stuff off. And the stuff I'm going to sell, I would want graded if it's more than $150 or so value graded. Is really the sweet spot for me. And right now that's kind of prohibitive. You can't really, unless you know that something's going to be worth more money in 6 to 12 months, you can't send that off and know you're going to get it back. And the market's changing quickly. It's usually going up, but it could crash. All kinds of things can happen, and you could be sitting on a lot of books that are kind of worthless. So I think that's a very important thing to think about when you're thinking about submitting comic books in 2021 to, especially like, let's just say CGC, because they're by far the big kids on the block. SG says he's not a fan of signatures. Just, yeah, that's totally, a lot of people feel that way, SG. And I think it's important. I think a lot of collectors that are into signatures forget that a lot of collectors aren't into signatures. Would you prefer to get an artist, writer, actors, or etc. signatures? I asked because I saw Gal Gadot charges $610 for her signature per item at CGC. A personal opinion, 99.9% of the time, do not want anybody other than a creator that worked on the comic book signing the comic book. The 0.01 of that exception is somebody who helped create the character. I'm okay with that to an extent. But I generally don't like it, like a Stan Lee book. I love Stan Lee. I want Stan Lee signed books. I don't want Stan Lee signed anything. He signed anything. And I'm, to a certain extent, I'm glad he did, because obviously he's not with us anymore and he's on the Mount Rushmore of comic books, but hands down. But there's a lot of it out there, which is good from a preservation perspective now, because we just don't have that ability anymore, obviously. but unless you're that kid from Europe, in which case, here's a bunch of Stanleys, here you go. Um, but but I wanted a book, that he worked on. I wanted something that he wrote. I'd kind of be okay with him, like, obviously I'm an X-Men fan. I'd kind of be okay with something else that he created. But with Stan Lee, so especially, that's kind of a bad example because he had his fingers in a lot of characters. This is late night comics where we can say things like that. But let's just say especially Mary Jane. That stuff's out of control. But yeah, yeah, it is. I think Chris Evans was another one that was pretty bad. But yeah, so when it gets to actors and stuff, personally, I don't want them near my books. Signing it. Here's where I would kind of make some exceptions there. Although I don't collect them usually. Photo covers, like for there were like some, or there actually weren't photos, they were paintings of photos basically. For like the early MCU phase 1 stuff, there was some of those covers. I guess I could see that for like, having Hemsworth or Evans or whatever sign your cover, or Danny Jr. if you could get him to. God, that one would be expensive. He'd be like $1,000 probably. But it's ridiculously expensive. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And not many people here probably saw it. But I did have to say, RIP for Ed Asner as well, who passed away and was, the voice of J. Jonah Jameson, and he was in Gargoyles and Up, obviously, and just a fantastic actor from decades spanning career. So rest in peace, Mr. Asner, as well. Maybe they're up there having a drink right now together. But yeah, I don't like signatures for the most part of actors. I tend to maybe, man, maybe if you see her make a funny little face or like, kind of settle into herself a little bit, maybe there you go. We could have a live seance. We could do that. We have the technology. No, we don't. But when it comes to the writer artist thing, it depends on the book. My preference is, I think comics are a visual medium first and foremost. So I tend to favor art, but I love good stories. Like, it's that they have to go hand in hand, but art always kind of wins out for me. It's like a 55-45 split in my mind. So art becomes important. That, so he has special rights, like to do dog petting. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. The truth is they can charge it, and people are paying for it. That's the thing. People are paying for it. Um, it's a if people stop paying for it, that price will drop. They won't. Yeah, exactly. Did he turn into the Hulk? I had to. So I probably kind of prefer the artist signature. The writer signature, though, like if I had a Walking Dead 1, I'd want Robert Kirkman to sign it. So it kind of depends on the book, right? Like, if I had, what's another good example? It really depends, though. Yeah, I got you. I got you. That's what we got there. You want a ghost to pet your dog, so you're basically asking to be in the next Ghostbusters movie. That's totally, I get it. Um, I mean, who doesn't want to be a Ghostbuster? I know I did. But writers have their if they created the characters or the primary creator of that character, I'd kind of lean towards the writer. Ideally, you get both, right? I always thought it was cool, like to have a book that was, writer, illustrator, inker. Depends on like letter, depending on the era, that kind of thing. But I think that'd be cool, depending on the book, of course. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that one. So we dropped down to 8 viewers here. We unboxed all our stuff. We've hit about an hour mark. So if you guys have any more questions, throw them out there. I will keep doing stuff and trying to keep the show going. I had that technical snafu earlier with reading the article and not having my mic hooked up to that particular scene in OBS. Sorry about that. I'll work on that. I got like a late night intro royalty free music song I'm gonna try to throw on the next one too, and try to do a neat little intro. Yeah. See, that's a perfect example, I think, where if the likeness is so clearly the actor, and that actor is so, like Lou Ferrigno is a good example. Like some Hulk books I could see putting over to Lou Ferrigno, but when you talk about like Chris Evans playing Captain America, or you talk about Gal Gadot playing Wonder Woman, they're not even necessarily, like, on a long enough timeline, they're not even necessarily going to be the definitive person that played that character. Like, I would say Gal Gadot might not even be the definitive Wonder Woman at this point, even though she's been in some huge motion pictures, obviously, as Wonder Woman. We can't discount earlier counterparts. And then, yeah, I know what you're talking about. And I mentioned the photo covers earlier too. But think about Chris Evans. Like, somebody could come along. We have Sam Wilson taking over as Captain America right now, Sam Cap. I don't think that'll be particularly long lived, but in 15, 20 years, the whole MCU could reboot or something like that, or even less, really. And then we could be looking at tons of, whatever next actor that is, somebody who's probably getting born right now, could be identified with, the future of that character. But anyways, but somebody like Arnold as Conan, I mean, I think that's pretty, at this point, pretty well emblazoned in people's memories. Although we are getting new Conan. So you bought that X-Men 9 from Gary's auction the other night. So X-Men, wow, like, so the OG run X-Men 9, huh? That's awesome. Congratulations, Follow Hero. I did not. So I kept checking into that auction just because I was having my own auction later, and I usually pop into his auctions and see what's going on. They're pretty fun. But I did not see that one. That's the thing with those auctions. They're what, 6 hours long usually, or longer. It's almost impossible to kind of catch everything unless you just really sit down and watch it all. And I can't do that. Yeah, that's what I was saying basically. Like, Linda Carter is definitely more Wonder Woman. Love the Late Show. That's awesome. I'm glad you like it. It is still kind of experimental. I'm going to keep doing work on it. We're going to get better. I'm not fully comfortable in live format at all yet. I'm getting there, but again, there's stuff I want to implement to kind of make this more production value, or feel more like a late night show, and eventually we'll do some like guests and stuff like that too. So it's going to get more fun as it goes along. Like last week I just did unboxings for the most part. This time I'm trying to throw in the nerd news segment so we can kind of cover the news in the beginning. It'll just get more and more, but I had that AOK. I really wanted to get to that. That was really awesome, by the way. And yes, she does say that she hopes it keeps going and growing. Yeah, so the original run, volume 1. Okay, cool. Yeah, I was gonna say X-Men 9 from the second volume isn't really worth anything. Yeah, well, it's funny because I watched the end of it because I bombed into their chat right at the end. So I'd mentioned in the preview video, and I'd mentioned earlier in that auction that I was doing my live auction. They shouted me out. I don't know. You may have heard that. That was kind of cool. It was nice of them to do that. They didn't have to. They could have just ignored me or been like, dude, you're stepping on our turf. Get the fuck out of here. But they were very awesome and very nice about it. I appreciated that. But I did tune back in just to the very end of that video because I was curious. Did they even read it? Because I had my phone on silent when I was doing my auction. And I was just gonna see, and man, they were throwing up like some Wolverine keys at the very end of the auction. So they've been going for 6 hours. Like, everybody had bailed. Like, only 200 people were watching. I say that because only 30 people watched my auction, but I still had a great time. That auction went really well, and I'm super, super happy about it. Oh, that's cool. That was the first comic you got at store. That's awesome. Mine, as many people on the show know, is X-Men 280. So, but I also kind of was a late bloomer for comics. Hey, and by the way, thanks for packing those books, because I just unboxed them, and if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been able to unbox them. Of course you are. You always work, and you always work naked. Everybody knows that. That's why there's so many hairs of all kinds. Wow. So the thing I saw that was really cool is he did like those big ass runs. They weren't complete. Big ass runs of X-Men and ASM. Like huge. Yeah, the 129 book ASM run. And there was an X-Men run too, right? Those were pretty cool. Like, I missed the X-Men one. Like I came in like right when it was over. I couldn't have afforded it anyway. Yeah, I know. I'm just not saying it. That's your thing, man. Um, but I saw the ASM one, and if I was working on an ASM run, I mean, the guy got it for like what, $500-600, and it had some good keys in it. So, um, I think when I think about what the X-Men are going to be in the MCU, I've talked to some uh people who write stuff for Marvel and stuff that's under NDA, so I can't really talk about it much, but I was under NDA with them on certain things. It gets a little complicated. Um I'm not saying they have any inside knowledge of this, but they know how some of those people think, and I kind of tend to agree with them. I think that we're not really going to see a lot of one-to-one adaptation with X-Men. Personally, I would prefer that. I hope that's what they do, but um I mean, just look what they did with bringing Spider-Man into the MCU, and how smart that was. I think they've kind of maybe lost their footing with Spider-Man a little bit, but when he came in for Civil War and everything, that was just like hitting the ground running. It was really smart. It was a big hit. Everybody loved it, and it felt like Spider-Man. It felt like Spider-Man. That was the thing, right? Like Spider-Man kind of felt like Spider-Man in the Tobey Maguire movie to me. He didn't feel like Spider-Man in the Amazing Spider-Man films with Andrew Garfield. It was yeah, I was actually okay with that first movie, but anyways, the plotline of Civil War, and then when you got Homecoming, they felt spot on like Spider-Man. Like Homecoming to me is still my favorite Spider-Man movie, hands down. So as a fan, I would love to see that, but I bet you anything that it won't be such a one-to-one thing. However, just a general Avengers versus X-Men, yes, there'll be a fight at some point. There will be, but I don't think it's going to be anything like the original story. I don't think it's going to be anything like AVX. But yeah, there'll be a fight. God, I hope it's nothing like AVX. And then Secret War. Yeah, I think Secret War is coming. Mostly just based on what the Russo brothers said. But yeah. Oh, that was the last auction. Okay, maybe they just talked about it or something. Yeah, it's coming. It's just again, I think as fans, we get so caught up on the storylines, and I'm a huge proponent of like almost entirely beyond ridiculous levels of literal adaptations, way more so than most fans. Like a lot of fans really like the Lord of the Rings movies. I had huge problems with them because I wanted them to be more faithful to the source material. And so I love the MCU. I love it. I wish it was more like the comic books in a lot of ways. But at this point, they've gone so far and they've done so well that I'm willing to accept more and more and more. But I think that we get caught up in that thinking that, oh, it's going to be like this, it's going to be like that. Like, you know, they hit some high notes, but at the same time, they've changed a lot. So I think that we have to expect that going forward, and keep that in mind. That's a big book. Yeah, I think. Well, I think what's more likely is you'll probably get elements of both wrapped up into something new. Oh man, you guys are some ballers in here tonight. Yeah, I think he was cool, but it wasn't my Spider-Man. Is there a chance that Peter Parker acted from the '70s TV show? I mean, there's a chance, for sure. I think at this point, you know, the cat's out of the bag. We expect like pretty much everybody in there. Um, by the way, I'm fully willing to buy into the Doctor Strange's Mephisto thing. I haven't really talked about that, but my element to that is that he's in a cold room and hell's frozen over and he's the devil. I don't know. It makes sense to me, but I know a lot of people have that opinion, and I totally am okay if that's not it. I'm not like caught up into it, and I was not big into Mephisto and WandaVision either, but a lot of people obviously were. Yeah, he was witty, but yeah, he was too cool. I agree. Oh God. Um, oh, I think Darren meant from from the original show, right? But that's pretty funny, the Topher Grace joke. Yeah, exactly. Peter should be nerdy. Although what I did respect about that is he acted more like a scientist, which I think that often gets taken for granted. Yeah, exactly. They're going to take the stuff that they want. So here's the part that it's Sony. Here's the thing. Sony has rebranded their stuff, the Sony Spider-Man universe or whatever. And they're trying, there are really strong rumors they're trying to buy out Spider-Man from Sony. I'm telling you, you're looking at the mixed universe. We have the multiverse of madness coming. You have Kang talking about the multiverse. You have Venom being really popular and getting pushed and seemingly waiting for some timing. It's probably because of COVID, but I think some other stuff plays into this. I think we're seeing that universe going to get carried over into the MCU, or vice versa. There's going to be some crossover going the other way as well. And I think both companies stand to make a lot of money from it. And they've had a history of making deals before with Spider-Man. So it's definitely possible. I'm excited for Blade 2. Blade does well. I'm not excited for Blade 2. I did not enjoy Blade 2. Blade 1. So Blade 1 I snuck into when I was a kid. It was an R-rated movie. I wasn't allowed to get into it. I snuck into it. My parents were out of town. I walked over to the movie theater in my town that I later worked at. Snuck in and watched it, and I remember walking home and like wanting to fight vampires and shit. I thought that was a cool movie. One of my favorite lines ever in a movie. It's such a stupid, bad, cheesy line, but Wesley Snipes' character Blade, obviously in that movie, says, "Always some motherfucker trying to ice skate uphill." I love that line. It's so good. And the punk panel reconstruction remix of Blue Monday in that song. In the beginning in the dance club is fantastic. Yeah, he should be more scientific, and at least with Tom Holland, you know, he doesn't have organic web shooters and stuff. It's hard to say. It's hard to say, Edwin. I think, you know, with the success of everything we have going on, everything is possible. Everything's possible. At a long enough timeline, if they're going to be continuing to do stuff, I think we're gonna see just about everything kind of come to fruition. That's the funny part about this whole thing. So the actor was Nick Hammond. Oh, he's from The Sound of Music. Okay, interesting. Yeah, see, you learn something every day. I remember seeing reruns of that show when I was a kid, and even as a kid, I just thought it was bad. The only show like that I liked when I was a kid was The Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno Incredible Hulk series, and Bill Bixby. And I just thought Bill Bixby was a cool guy, and then I always like felt bad for him every time he turned into the Hulk, right? Like, it was still cool to see the Hulk, of course, but I always felt bad for him. But yeah. Anyways, guys, unless you have any other questions, I'm probably gonna log off here in a second. I do, you know, I love input on these shows. If you guys have segments you want to see, if you have, you know, yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool. I'm excited for Shriek, and to be honest, for speculation reasons, because I have a couple copies of Spider-Man Unlimited #1. So I'm gonna be honest about that. The first Venom movie was a guilty pleasure of mine. I kind of enjoyed it, even though I thought it was a bad movie. I think this movie looks terrible. I don't like where they're going with the humor, with the symbiote and stuff. Not really my thing. So I think Carnage looks badass though, and I'm excited to see Carnage. I mean, the actual like CGI and stuff, I don't think looks great or anything, but like Woody Harrelson as that character and stuff, I think that's really cool. So I'm excited. Fallen thinks Patrick Mulligan's gonna be in it. But yeah, I think that's definitely possible. But yeah, if you guys have feedback about the show, things you'd like to see, I'd love to hear about it. Like I said, I'm going to keep improving things on here. You know, I'm going to try to make it a little bit more late night-y as far as that stuff goes, but I'm still getting in the rhythm with it. It's only the second episode. If you enjoyed the show, you know, definitely hopefully stick around for the next one. Check out my content I have coming on later this week. It's kind of funny. We dipped in viewers and then we came back up at the end. So if you are in here and you had any questions, it's your last kind of chance to get it out. Yeah, I think the Carnage part of the movie looks good, and I was really excited when I saw the after credits teaser at the end of the first Venom movie. Yeah, too campy and funny Venom. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, like there's a really, guys probably know Eddie's mullet from the community. He seems to think that's a pretty accurate portrayal of the character. And he's a huge Venom fan, so maybe he's right. But the early Venom especially, I don't know. I prefer the kind of darker, grittier Venom because it works better if he's going to be an anti-hero, which is what Venom is now. If Venom is the villain, you can have kind of this funnier kind of thing going on and have it work, because like that's part of the reason why the Joker works, right? Like the Joker might do something funny, but then he's gonna turn around and kill you. With Venom, maybe he does something funny, but then he could turn around and bite your head off, right? Like, so there is kind of like, I think, something that works there. But if you're the hero and you're scary, dark, brooding, but then you're comic relief, it's like it doesn't work. Like you have to be like Ant-Man, Paul Rudd's Ant-Man. He's like this, dopey kind of dad like character that's just kind of happy-go-lucky and it's like, oh, cool, Captain America and all this kind of stuff, right? That works. You can be funny and be that and be a hero. But to be like scary and then have like physical humor and like body humor, like that whole scene where the symbiote's making breakfast and stuff, it just turns me off to that movie. Yeah, that's funny. I watched that way after the fact. David says the Killing Joke animation movie was bad. I watched it way after the fact, and I was like, it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. And yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. The whole Batgirl scene, especially, was kind of unintentionally funny to me, but it was bad. See, I just watched the Hush movie, and it's nowhere as good as the comic book, but I didn't really have a problem with it. I thought it was still pretty good, but I'm kind of getting caught up on those movies. My wife and I had just started the Long Halloween stuff, and so far that seems a lot better for sure. But I thought it was okay. I didn't love the animation, and this was her critique too. I didn't really love the animation in the Hush movie. Exactly. Yeah, an anti-hero shouldn't be goofy or campy. I mean, like they should have a really cool straight line joke at one point, like you don't see it coming, and that's why it's funny. Like, I hate that they created this dynamic in the X-Men movies, the Fox X-Men movies, but when Wolverine flips off Cyclops with his middle claw in the first X-Men movie, that is an anti-hero that can be funny. That's how you do funny. But if he did that 10 times throughout the movie, or if he did stuff like that, it would not be good. The point of that is he makes like 2 or 3 really good jokes throughout that movie, like Storm, Cyclops, what do they call you? Wheels? That he's got like 2 real good jokes in that movie, and so it works. If you have him be funny, campy, like all of a sudden they have to be scary, they have to be edgy, and you get like, I think the rule of thumb is in a film you get 1 good joke out of that, and you should because it makes that character more likable, but you should not make them like physical, goofy, campy, that kind of humor. Definitely, it'll just ruin it. All right, guys. Well, I've kind of said everything I'm going to say here, and no more questions came through. I do love hanging out with you guys, and we, I'll try to make these streams about an hour and a half usually, depending on what we have to talk about and what's going on. But I do appreciate all of you coming in to the show. I like to end the show, as always, by reminding you that every day you should read comics. No, I'm just kidding. I'll do it the right way. But yeah, thanks again for coming to the stream. I hope I catch you on the next one. And as always, hey. Read comics every day. I hope everybody has a great week. I hope if you were off to a bad start, it gets better and better for you. And thanks for popping into the stream. Have a good night, everybody.